She was paid to break his heart. She was hired to make him fall in love. No one told her she would fall harder. By the time Clara Hayes learned what kind of man Adrian Whitmore really was, the money had already been wired into her account. $80,000. Enough to keep the hospital from moving her mother to a charity ward. Enough to stop the bank from taking the little brick house with the broken porch steps. Enough to buy time. And time, Clara had learned, was the most expensive thing in the world. When someone you loved was dying, she first saw Adrian Whitmore through a wall of champagne glasses. The ballroom of the Langford Hotel glittered like a jewelry box. All gold light and crystal chandeliers. All silk gowns and tailored suits. All people laughing as if money had never asked anything cruel of them. Clara stood near the kitchen doors in a black server's uniform, holding a tray so heavy her wrist ached. Across the room, cameras flashed around Adrian. He looked exactly the way rich sons were supposed to look. Tall, polished, untouchable. His dark hair was neatly styled. His black tuxedo fit like it had been sewn onto him. And when he smiled for the photographers, every woman in the room seemed to tilt toward him like flowers toward sunlight. Clara hated him immediately. Not personally. She didn't know him. But she hated what he represented. People like Adrian Whitmore did not check bank apps before buying groceries. They did not count pills in orange bottles and wonder which prescription could wait another week. They did not stand in hospital hallways, pretending not to hear doctors say words like experimental treatment and out-of-pocket cost. People like him lived above consequences. People like Clara cleaned up after them. She was turning toward the bar when a woman stepped into her path. Vivian Whitmore did not need to introduce herself. Clara had seen her face on magazine covers, in waiting rooms, beside headlines about charity boards, private foundations, and one of the wealthiest families in New England. Vivian was beautiful in a cold, careful way. Silver blonde hair, diamond earrings, a smile sharp enough to open skin. Clara Hayes, she said. Clara froze. No one at that event knew her name. At least, no one was supposed to. Yes, Vivian glanced toward the kitchen doors. You get off at midnight. Clara's fingers tightened around the tray. Who's asking? A woman who knows your mother's hospital bill is $73,000 overdue. The ballroom noise seemed to drop away. Clara stared at her. Vivian's expression did not change. And that the bank has sent 2 foreclosure notices to your house on Briar Street. Clara's cheeks burned. I don't know what kind of game this is, but I'm working. No game. Vivian leaned slightly closer. Her perfume smelled like white roses and expensive smoke. A job. I already have 3. This one pays better. Clara wanted to walk away. She should have walked away. But Vivian had said her mother's hospital bill out loud, and that number had followed Clara everywhere for months. It sat beside her in the bus. It slept under her pillow. It breathed down her neck whenever her mother smiled weakly and said, "Honey, don't worry so much." What job? Clara asked. Vivian's eyes moved across the ballroom. To get close to my nephew. Clara followed her gaze. Adrian was speaking with an older man near the stage, smiling politely, one hand in his pocket. Why? Because Adrian is about to inherit controlling authority over Whitmore Holdings, hotels, real estate, investments, the foundation, everything. Vivian's voice stayed smooth, and he is dangerously unprepared for it. Then don't give it to him. It's not that simple. It usually isn't with rich people. For the first time, Vivian almost smiled. Adrian has always had a weakness for wounded things, stray dogs, failing theaters, sad girls with honest eyes. Clara's stomach tightened. Vivian looked directly at her. Make him notice you. Make him trust you. Make him fall in love. Then make him believe love is the reason he should walk away from the family business. Clara stared at her as if she had spoken in another language. You want me to manipulate him? I want you to give him what he already wants. And then, Vivian's smile vanished. Then you break his heart badly enough that he does not come back." The words were quiet, almost elegant. That made them worse. Clara let out a small laugh, but nothing about it felt funny. "You're insane. I'm practical. You want to pay me to hurt someone. I want to pay you to save your mother." That landed exactly where Vivian meant it, too. Clara looked toward the ballroom again. Adrian Whitmore laughed softly at something the older man said. He looked comfortable, safe, like heartbreak would be a brief inconvenience to him, like sadness would simply be another room in one of his family's hotels, one he could leave whenever he wanted. "How much?" Clara whispered. Vivian did not blink. $80,000 now. Another 80 when it's done. Clara's breath caught. $160,000. Enough to pay the hospital. Enough to save the house. Enough to let her mother live without apologizing for the cost of it. "You're asking the wrong person," Clara said, though her voice had already weakened. "No," Vivian replied. "I'm asking the right one." That night, Clara went home with sore feet, a folded business card, and a number in her head that sounded too much like salvation. Her mother was asleep on the couch when Clara came in. The TV was still playing, volume low, an old cooking show. Her mother used to love cooking shows before chemo made the smell of food unbearable. Clara turned off the television and pulled a blanket over her. Elaine Hayes looked smaller every week. Once, her mother had been loud, warm, unstoppable, the kind of woman who sang while making pancakes and danced in grocery store aisles just to embarrass her daughter. Now her wrists looked breakable. Clara sat on the floor beside the couch and rested her forehead against the cushion. She thought of Adrian Whitmore, his perfect tuxedo, his easy smile, his soft hands that had probably never scrubbed a diner floor at 2 in the morning. Then she thought of the final notice from the bank, folded beside the toaster. She thought of the nurse who no longer met her eyes when she asked about payment plans. She thought of her mother coughing into a tissue and hiding the blood. By sunrise, Clara had made her choice. She called Vivian and sold a piece of herself for $80,000. The plan began simply. Vivian arranged for Clara to be hired as a temporary assistant at the Whitmore Foundation's spring literacy fundraiser. It was not glamorous work, mostly emails, guest lists, donation cards, and making sure wealthy donors had their names spelled correctly on table settings. Clara learned quickly. She learned that the Whitmores donated millions to public causes while destroying private lives behind closed doors. She learned that Vivian treated kindness like a weakness and loyalty like a debt. She learned that Adrian came to the foundation office every Tuesday morning, even though everyone said he hated meetings. On the first Tuesday, Clara wore a blue dress Vivian had sent to her apartment. It fit perfectly. That disturbed her. Adrian arrived late, carrying 2 coffees and a stack of children's books under one arm. "Sorry," he said to the receptionist. "The bookstore owner called me about funding again, and I have no survival instincts." His voice was warmer than Clara expected, less polished. He turned and nearly collided with her. Coffee splashed over the cuff of his white shirt. Clara gasped, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. It was supposed to happen." Vivian had told her exactly where to stand still. Clara's apology came out real. Adrian looked down at his sleeve, then at her. Then he smiled. "Honestly, this is the most personality this shirt has ever had." Clara blinked. That was not what she expected. Most men like him would have snapped at her, or stared until she felt small, or made some joke that reminded her of the distance between the person wearing the tuxedo and the person carrying the tray. Adrian only shifted the books in his arms and offered her the coffee that had survived. "Here, you look like you need this more than I do." Clara stared at the cup. "I just ruined your shirt. Technically, you improved it. I can pay for cleaning." He laughed then, not loudly, just enough to soften his face. "It's a shirt, not a landmark." She should have smiled. She should have played the role. Instead, she felt something uncomfortable move inside her. Shame, maybe. Or warning. "I'm Clara," she said. "Adrian." "I know. Right." His smile turned a little tired. Everyone usually does. That was the first crack. Not in him. In her plan. Because arrogance would have made things easier. Cruelty would have made her better at the job. But Adrian Whitmore was not cruel. Over the next 3 weeks, Clara did what she had been paid to do. She learned his schedule. She laughed at his jokes. She stayed late at the foundation office when she knew he would stay late too. She pretended to love old bookstores, though she had always preferred libraries. Because books there did not require money, she pretended not to notice how often he watched her when he thought she wasn't looking. But the problem with pretending was that sometimes it got too close to the truth. Adrian was nothing like the man Vivian had described. He did not arrive in sports cars. He drove an old green Jeep with a cracked rear window because, he said, it still works. And I hate when things are replaced just because they look tired. He knew the names of janitors, interns, elevator operators, and security guards. He tipped too much. He listened when people spoke. Worst of all, he remembered things. Small things. Dangerous things. When Clara mentioned once that her mother used to grow basil on the kitchen windowsill, Adrian brought a basil plant to the office the next day. Not roses, not jewelry. Basil. "I saw it at the market," he said, setting it on her desk. It looked like it had strong opinions. Clara touched one of the leaves. The smell hit her so suddenly she almost cried. Her mother's kitchen. Summer sauce simmering on the stove. Music on the radio. A life before bills became weather. "You okay?" Adrian asked. Clara forced herself to smile. "Yeah, it's just basil." But he kept looking at her as if he knew nothing was ever just anything. That was the night she almost quit. She sat in her car outside the hospital. Vivian's contract open on her phone, her thumb hovering over the call button. Then a nurse came out and told her the treatment deposit had cleared. Her mother could begin the next cycle. The money had already started saving her life. So Clara kept going. 1 month turned into 2. The fundraiser ended, but Adrian found reasons to keep her nearby. First as a project coordinator, then as a consultant for a community reading initiative in the poorer neighborhoods of the city. Clara knew Vivian had arranged a title. Adrian thought he had chosen her. That was the cruelty of it. He took her to a closed theater in South Boston one rainy afternoon. The marquee was missing half its letters. The seat smelled like dust and velvet. A hole in the ceiling let a pale shaft of light fall across the stage. "My father wanted to turn this into luxury condos," Adrian said. Clara stood in the aisle, arms crossed, against the cold. "And you?" "I want to restore it." "Why?" He walked down toward the stage. "Because my mother brought me here when I was 8. We saw some terrible local production of Peter Pan. One of the pirates forgot his lines and just yelled, 'Boats,' for 30 seconds. Clara laughed before she could stop herself. Adrian looked back at her, pleased. "She died the next year," he said. The laughter left her. "I'm sorry." He nodded, but his eyes had gone somewhere else. "After that, my father got very focused on legacy, buildings, deals, things with names carved into stone." Adrian ran a hand along the back of a broken seat. "But my mother believed legacy was what people felt after you left the room." Clara said nothing. She used to say money was only useful if it could keep something human alive. Outside, rain tapped against the boarded windows. Clara thought of the $80,000 in her accounts. Money keeping something human alive. Money bought with a lie. Adrian turned to her. "What about you? What about me? What do you want to keep alive?" Clara almost told him the truth. "My mother. My house. The part of me that existed before I agreed to hurt you." "Instead," she said, "I don't know anymore." Adrian studied her for a moment. Then he said softly, "That sounds honest." It wasn't. And somehow that made it hurt more. The first time he kissed her, Clara forgot. She was being paid. It happened behind Rev's bookshop, beneath a rusted fire escape, while rain poured down, hard enough to turn the alley silver. They had just delivered donated books to the children's center. Adrian had insisted on carrying the heaviest boxes, even after Clara told him rich men were not built for manual labor. "I'll have you know," he said, drenched and breathless, "I once assembled an entire IKEA shelf. Did it stand? For a while. How long? That feels irrelevant." She laughed. A real laugh. The kind she had not heard from herself in years. Adrian stared at her. "What?" she asked. His expression changed. Not dramatically, just enough for the air between them to shift. "I like when you forget to be guarded," he said. Clara's smile faded. "I'm not guarded. You are. You barely know me. I know you hate asking for help. I know you pretend sarcasm is a personality, so people won't notice when you're scared. I know you always take the broken mug from the office kitchen because you think no one else should have to use it." Clara looked away. "And I know," Adrian said quietly, "that sometimes you look at me like you're sorry." Her heart stopped. Rain fell between them. She should have stepped back. She should have laughed it off. She should have remembered Vivian's instructions. The contract, the hospital bills, the wire transfer, the second payment, waiting at the end. Instead, she looked up at him. Adrian moved slowly, giving her every chance to refuse. She didn't. When his mouth touched hers, it was gentle. Too gentle. That was the worst part. If he had kissed her like he wanted to own her, she could have hated him. If he had kissed her like a rich man, claiming a temporary thrill, she could have finished the job. But Adrian kissed her like she mattered, like she was something precious, not because she was polished or useful, but because she was there, soaked by rain, laughing in an alley, with a broken heart he could somehow see. Clara went home that night and threw up in the bathroom sink. Her mother knocked on the door. "Honey, you okay?" Clara rinsed her mouth and stared at herself in the mirror. "No," she whispered, but not loud enough for her mother to hear. Vivian knew by morning. Of course she did. People like Vivian always had eyes in places where love tried to hide. She summoned Clara to the top floor of Whitmore Tower, where the windows made the city look small and manageable. "You're doing well," Vivian said. Clara stood in front of her desk, hands cold. "I want out." Vivian did not look surprised. "That would be inconvenient." "I don't care." "You should." Clara swallowed. "He's not what you said. He's exactly what I said. Sentimental, easily led, unfit. He cares about people." Vivian's smile was thin. "That is not a qualification for power. It should be." How sweet. Clara hated her then. Not in the distant way she had once hated Adrian. Not as a symbol. Not as an idea. She hated Vivian as a person. A woman who could watch someone's goodness and call it a defect. "I'm done," Clara said. Vivian opened a folder and slid a paper across the desk. It was a copy of Clara's contract, her signature at the bottom. "You accepted payment under specific terms. If you fail to complete the agreement, the money becomes immediately repayable." "I don't have it." "I know." Vivian slid another document forward. A hospital invoice. Elaine Hayes. Outstanding projected costs. Clara's throat tightened. "My attorneys are very good," Vivian said. "So are the hospital's debt collectors. So is the bank currently holding your mortgage." "You'd do that." "I would prefer not to." "You mean you'd prefer I do what you want?" Vivian leaned back. "The board vote is in 3 weeks. Adrian plans to block a restructuring that would save this company millions. He wants to protect all properties, union contracts, pension liabilities, community programs, noble things, expensive things, human things," Clara said. "Human things do not keep empires alive." Clara's voice shook. "What do you want me to do?" Vivian's expression softened in a way that felt almost obscene. "Convince him to leave. He already wants to. He has always hated this life. Tell him he deserves freedom. Tell him love matters more than power. make him sign the renunciation agreement before the vote, and after you end it. Clara closed her eyes. Publicly. Privately would be kinder. Vivian paused. Publicly would be more effective. For a moment, Clara could hear Adrian laughing in the rain. Then Vivian said the one thing that broke her. Your mother has another treatment review next Friday, doesn't she? Clara opened her eyes. Vivian smiled. Be practical, Clara. 3 weeks. That was all it took to ruin a man who had only tried to love her. Clara began planting the idea carefully. She hated how good she was at it. She told Adrian he looked exhausted after board meetings. She told him he deserved a life that did not require him to bleed for people who would never thank him. She asked what he would do if the Whitmore name did not own him. At first, he resisted. Then he began to answer. He would restore the theatre. He would open a small bookstore cafe somewhere near the water. He would sleep past 6. He would cook badly and apologize dramatically. He would stop wearing ties. He would be ordinary. The way he said ordinary made Clara ache, as if ordinary were a country he had never been allowed to visit. One night, they sat on the roof of his apartment building, watching the city lights blink below them. Adrian had taken off his jacket. His sleeves were rolled up. His tie hung loose around his neck. For once, he looked less like an heir and more like a man. I used to think if I stayed, he said, I could make the company better. Clara hugged her knees to her chest. You still can. He looked at her. That's not what you usually say. She looked away. The city wind moved through her hair. What do I usually say? That I don't owe my life to people who only love what I can carry. Her own words came back to her like a slap. Adrian was quiet for a long moment. Then he reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded paper. Clara went still. What is that? Renunciation agreement. Her heart began to pound. Adrian, I had my lawyer draft it. He looked down at the paper. If I sign, my voting authority transfers to Vivian and the board until my cousin Daniel is approved as successor. Clara couldn't breathe. Daniel, Vivian's son. Of course, this had never been about protecting the company from Adrian. It had been about stealing it for Daniel. Adrian gave a small, tired smile. You were right. Maybe I'm not built for this. No. The word came out too fast. He frowned. No. Clara stood. The wind cut cold across the roof. You can't sign that. Adrian rose slowly. Clara, what's going on? You can't give it to Vivian. I thought you wanted me free of all this. I did. I thought. She stopped, because there was no way out of the sentence without blood. Adrian stepped closer. Thought what? Clara's phone buzzed in her coat pocket. A message from Vivian. Tomorrow night. Get him to sign. Then end it. Clara stared at the screen too long. Adrian saw. His face changed. Not fully. Just enough. Who is that? No one. Clara. She slipped the phone back into her pocket. I have to go. He caught her hand gently. She almost broke right there. Talk to me, he said. 3 words. Not angry. Not demanding. That was Adrian's tragedy. He kept offering trust to people who did not deserve it. Clara pulled her hand away. I can't. The next evening, the Whitmore family hosted a private reception at the Langford Hotel, the same hotel where Clara had first seen Adrian through champagne glasses. The symmetry felt cruel. Vivian had planned everything. Adrian would announce his decision to step away before a room full of board members, donors, family allies, and press contacts, disguised as guests. He would sign. Clara would wait until the document was secured. Then she would break him. Not with shouting, not with drama, with one clean sentence. You were never anything but a job. Vivian said it would be enough. Men like Adrian could survive anger. They could survive scandal, but humiliation from someone they loved, that would drive him out for good. Clara arrived in a black dress she had not chosen, wearing lipstick she hated and a necklace Vivian had sent with a note that said, "Look believable." Adrian found her near the balcony doors. He looked beautiful. That made it worse. His tuxedo was perfect, but his eyes searched her face like he was looking for the woman from the rainy alley. "You came," he said. "Of course, Clara." She forced a smile. "Big night, is it?" He already knew something was wrong. Maybe he had known 4 days. Maybe love noticed betrayal before proof arrived. A waiter passed with champagne. Clara took a glass because her hands needed something to hold. Adrian did not. "I didn't sleep last night," he said. "I'm sorry. I kept thinking about you telling me not to sign." Clara's mouth went dry, and I realized something. Across the room, Vivian watched them. Still, patient, deadly. Adrian's voice lowered. "You weren't afraid for me. You were afraid of her." Clara looked up at him. The room blurred at the edges. "Adrian, tell me I'm wrong." She opened her mouth. Nothing came. Pain moved across his face. Not surprise. Confirmation. That hurt more. Before she could speak, Vivian tapped her spoon against a champagne glass. The room quieted. "Friends," Vivian said, smiling beautifully. "Thank you for joining us tonight. This family has always believed in legacy, in responsibility, in knowing when to carry power and when to release it." Clara felt sick. Adrian's eyes stayed on her. Vivian continued, "My nephew has an announcement that I believe will mark a new chapter for Whitmore Holdings." Applause rose politely. Adrian did not move. Vivian's smile tightened. "Adrian." He looked toward his aunt, then back at Clara. For one wild second, Clara thought he would refuse. Then he walked to the front of the room. Every step felt like a door closing. A staff member placed the renunciation agreement on a small table beside the microphone. Adrian stood before the crowd. He looked calm. Too calm. "I plan to sign this tonight," he said. A murmur moved through the room. Vivian's face softened with victory. Adrian rested one hand on the document. "For most of my life, I believed the Whitmore name was a duty, something heavier than choice, something I had to carry because my father carried it, and his father before him." He looked at Clara. "And recently, someone made me believe I could set it down." Her throat closed. His voice did not break. That almost broke her. "I wanted that, more than I should have. I wanted a life that felt honest, simple, human." Vivian's eyes narrowed. "But I learned something important." Adrian lifted the paper. "There are people in this family who mistake cruelty for strength. They mistake control for love. And they mistake kindness for weakness, because kindness is the one power they have never understood." The room went silent. Adrian tore the agreement in half. Gasps scattered across the ballroom. Vivian went white. Clara's heart stopped. "I will not be stepping down," Adrian said. Vivian moved toward him. "Adrian, this is not the time." "No," he said, without looking at her. "It's exactly the time." Then his eyes found Clara again. "And as for the person who helped me see the truth." The room seemed to hold its breath. Clara knew what came next. Exposure. Disgust. The punishment she deserved. Adrian's expression hardened, but his voice remained quiet. "I hope one day she understands that saving someone with a lie still leaves blood on the truth." He stepped away from the microphone. Clara could not move. Vivian recovered quickly. People like her always did. She crossed the room, grabbed Clara by the arm, and pulled her toward a side corridor. "You stupid girl," Vivian hissed. Clara yanked herself free. "He knows. Clearly. You lied about Daniel." Vivian laughed under her breath. "And you lied about everything else." That landed. Clara had no defense. Vivian stepped closer. "You think this is redemption? He may not have signed. But once he learns what you were paid, once he sees the contract, you will become the scandal. Not me." Clara's stomach dropped. "Don't look so shocked," Vivian said. "Did you really think I would let a waitress hold my family hostage?" She pulled out her phone. On the screen was a message ready to send. A scanned contract. Clara's signature. Payment records. Proof. "If I release this," Vivian said, "Adrian becomes the fool who fell for a hired girl. The board questions his judgment. Investors panic. Headlines write themselves. Clara stared at the screen. The old Clara would have begged. The desperate Clara would have calculated. The Clara who had signed that contract would have asked what it cost to make the threat go away. But the woman standing in that corridor had already lost the only thing she had not been paid to risk, Adrian. So there was nothing left to protect except the truth. Clara reached into her purse and took out her phone. Vivian's eyes flickered. "What are you doing?" Clara pressed play. Vivian's own voice filled the corridor. "Make him trust you. Make him fall in love. Then make him believe love is the reason he should walk away from the family business." Vivian froze. The recording continued. "After you end it publicly would be more effective." For once, Vivian Whitmore had no smile. Clara's hand shook, but she held the phone steady. "I recorded you the day I tried to quit." Vivian's voice dropped. "You little." "I was a coward," Clara said. "Not stupid." Then she walked past Vivian and back into the ballroom. Every eye turned to her. Adrian stood near the stage, speaking to board members. When he saw her, his face closed. Clara deserved that. She walked to the microphone before she could lose courage. Her heart hammered so hard she could barely hear her own voice. "My name is Clara Hayes," she said. The room quieted again. Adrian went still. "I was hired by Vivian Whitmore to manipulate Adrian Whitmore into giving up control of this company." A wave of shock moved through the room. Vivian appeared in the corridor entrance, face pale with fury. Clara kept going. "She offered me money because my mother is sick and my family was drowning in debt. I took it." Her voice trembled. "I told myself it was just a job. I told myself people like Adrian Whitmore could afford to be hurt. I told myself a lot of things because I needed the money more than I needed to be a good person." She looked at Adrian then. His expression was unreadable. "But Adrian is a good person. Better than this family deserves. Better than I deserved." Tears blurred her vision, but she did not let them fall yet. Vivian wanted him gone because he was the only one standing between her and control. "I have recordings, contracts, messages. I'll give everything to the board and to the press if I have to." Vivian's voice cut across the room. "She's a paid liar." Clara nodded. "Yes, I am." That silenced everyone more than denial would have. She looked back at Adrian. "I lied to him. I hurt him. And I can't undo that. But I will not let the lie finish what it started." For a second, no one moved. Then Adrian walked toward her. Each step felt unbearable. He stopped a few feet away. His eyes were full of something worse than anger, grief. "Was any of it real?" he asked. The microphone carried his question through the ballroom. Clara could have said yes. She could have begged. She could have explained the hospital, the foreclosure, her mother's illness, the fear that had hollowed her out until morality became something she could no longer afford. But love, real love, could not begin with another excuse. So she told him the truth. At first, no. Adrian flinched. Clara's tears fell then. But by the time it was real, I had already done too much to deserve it. His jaw tightened. The silence between them was enormous. Then Adrian turned away. Not cruelly, not dramatically. He simply could not look at her anymore. And that was the moment Clara understood heartbreak fully. Not as something she had been hired to cause, as something she had earned. The scandal broke before sunrise. By morning, every major paper in Boston had a version of the story. Whitmore heir targeted by family power play. Foundation worker admits paid relationship. Vivian Whitmore under investigation by Board Ethics Committee. Clara's name was everywhere. Some people called her a victim. Some called her a gold digger. Some called her both. She did not read most of it. She spent the next week at the hospital with her mother, who cried when Clara finally told her the truth. Not because of the money, because of what it had cost her daughter. "Oh, baby," Elaine whispered, holding Clara's hand. "You should have told me. I was trying to save you." Her mother's eyes filled with pain. "I know, but you are not something I wanted saved, at the price of your own soul." Clara broke then, fully, in the quiet hospital room, with sunlight falling across white sheets. She cried like the girl she had been before. Debt taught her to bargain with herself. She gave the remaining money back, not to Vivian, to the court accounts opened during the investigation. It was not enough to erase what she had done. Nothing was. She kept working. The diner took her back because the owner, Marcy, had known Clara since she was 16 and said, "People who have never been desperate love, judging people who have." Clara picked up double shifts. She sold the blue dress Vivian had bought. She sold the necklace too. She visited her mother. She avoided Whitmore Tower, the Langford Hotel, every street where she might accidentally see Adrian. But Boston was a cruel city when it wanted to be. She saw him once outside the courthouse. 6 weeks later, he was standing at the top of the steps in a navy coat, surrounded by lawyers and reporters. He looked thinner, sharper, older. Clara stood across the street, half hidden behind a bus shelter. For a second, he looked in her direction. She did not know if he saw her. Then his car arrived, and he was gone. The board removed Vivian from every leadership position. Daniel withdrew from consideration after emails showed he had known more than he admitted. Adrian stayed, not because he wanted power, because leaving it to people like Vivian had almost destroyed him. He blocked the restructuring, protected the pensions, saved the theatre. The articles called him resilient, principled, a new kind of Whitmore. Clara clipped one article from the newspaper and folded it into the back of her mother's Bible. She did not know why. Maybe because love, once real, kept wanting proof that the other person was alive somewhere, even if they no longer belonged to you. Winter came hard that year. Snow piled against the diner windows. The heat in Clara's house failed twice. Her mother improved slowly, then quickly, then slowly again, because recovery was never a straight road. On Christmas Eve, Clara worked the closing shift. The diner was nearly empty, except for a truck driver drinking coffee, and 2 teenagers sharing fries in the corner. At 10 minutes to midnight, the bell over the door rang. Clara looked up. Adrian stood in the doorway. Snow dusted his shoulders. For 1 second, she forgot every word she knew. He looked around the diner, then at her. "Hi," he said. Her heart hurt at the softness of it. Not forgiveness, not yet, but not hatred either. "Hi." He walked to the counter and sat down. Clara gripped the coffee pot like it was the only solid thing in the world. "Coffee?" she asked. "Please." She poured it. Her hand shook. He noticed. Of course he did. Adrian always noticed. For a while, neither of them spoke. The truck driver paid and left. The teenagers wandered out laughing into the snow. Marcy called from the kitchen. "Clara, I'm heading out back to take inventory," in a tone that made it very clear she was doing no such thing. Then they were alone. Adrian looked down at the coffee. "I restored the theatre. I saw." His eyes lifted. "You did? In the paper?" He nodded slowly. "The first show is next month." "That's good." "It is." Silence again. Clara wanted to say 100 things. "I'm sorry. I miss you. I love you. I hate what I did. I think about the rain every day." Instead, she said, "Your coffee's getting cold." A faint, sad smile touched his mouth. "I remember you being better at avoiding emotional conversations. I've had practice. So have I. That hurt." She deserved it. Adrian reached into his coat pocket and placed something on the counter. A folded check. Clara looked at it, but did not touch it. "What is that?" "The exact amount Vivian paid you." Her stomach tightened. "I don't want it. It's not for you." She frowned. "It's for your mother's treatment. No conditions. No contract. No debt." Clara stepped back. "No. Clara, no." Her voice cracked. "You don't get to be kind to me like that." His expression shifted. Why not? Because I won't survive it. The words came out before she could stop them. Adrian stared at her. Clara pressed both hands against the counter. I'm trying so hard to become someone who would never take that money again. And if you give it to me, I don't know what that makes me. It makes you someone whose mother needs help. It makes me someone saved by the man she betrayed. Adrian's jaw tightened. I'm not doing it for you. That should have made it easier. It didn't. He looked toward the dark window, where snow blurred the streetlights. My mother died because my father thought reputation mattered more than experimental treatment. He called it unrealistic, desperate, a waste of resources. Clara went still. Adrian's voice lowered. I have more money than I could spend in 10 lifetimes. I know it can't fix everything, but when it can buy someone time, I can't pretend that isn't sacred. Clara's throat burned. Adrian, I'm still angry at you, he said. She closed her eyes. I know. I don't know if I can trust you. I know. And I hate that some part of me still looks for you in every room. Her eyes opened. He looked at her then. No armor, no polished air, just the man from the alley. The man from the broken theater. The man she had loved too late. I didn't come here to forgive you tonight, he said. Clara nodded, tears slipping down her face. Okay. I came because I needed to know one thing. What? Adrian's voice was barely above a whisper. Tell me one true thing. Clara understood. Not an apology. Not a defense. Not a pretty speech. One true thing. She wiped her cheek. I fell in love with you the day you brought me basil. His face changed. She kept going. Not because it was romantic. Because it wasn't. Because you remembered one tiny thing about my mother. And you gave it to me like it mattered. And I realized you saw people in a way I had forgotten people could be seen. Adrian looked down. Clara's voice shook. That was true. The diner was silent except for the hum of the old refrigerator. Finally, Adrian pushed a check toward her. Then take this as one true thing from me. She looked at it, then at him. I can't pay you back soon. I didn't ask you to. I will anyway. For the first time, his smile almost reached his eyes. I know. He stood to leave. Clara panicked at the thought of the door closing behind him again. Adrian. He stopped. She came around the counter, slowly, carefully, giving him every chance to walk away. I'm not asking you to forgive me. I know. I'm not asking for us back. His eyes held hers. I know. But if the theater opens next month, she swallowed. And if there's an extra ticket no one wants. The corner of his mouth moved. It's a restored theater in February. There will be many extra tickets no one wants. A laugh broke out of her. Small and wet. Adrian looked at her like the sound hurt him and healed him at the same time. I'll leave one at the box office, he said. Then he walked out into the snow. This time, Clara did not chase him. Some things could not be repaired by running after them. Some things had to be rebuilt slowly, honestly, beam by beam. The theater opened on a Friday night. Clara almost did not go. She stood in front of her mirror wearing the only dress she owned that did not smell like diner grease and told herself staying home would be easier. But easier had ruined enough already. So she went. The restored theater glowed like a memory, brought back to life. The marquee shone gold against the winter, dark. People lined up beneath it, laughing into scarves, stamping snow from their shoes. At the box office, an envelope waited. Inside was one ticket and a note. No pressure, just a seat. Clara held the paper to her chest for 1 second before going inside. The theater was beautiful, not perfect, beautiful. Fresh velvet seats, warm lights, restored carvings along the walls, a ceiling painted midnight blue with tiny gold stars. Clara found her seat near the back. The lights dimmed. Adrian stepped onto the stage before the show began. Applause filled the room. He waited for it to settle. My mother brought me here when I was 8, he said. The play was terrible. Laughter rippled through the audience. Clara smiled through sudden tears. But I remembered how this place made people feel. like ordinary life could open into something brighter for a few hours that is worth saving. His eyes moved across the audience. They found Clara, only for a second, but enough. This theater was saved by many people. Adrian continued. Some who donated, some who worked through the night, some who told the truth when lying would have been easier. Clara's breath caught. Adrian looked away before anyone could follow his gaze. So tonight is not about legacy in the old sense, not names on buildings, not power passed down like a crown. Tonight is about what we keep alive for each other. The applause came again. This time, Clara cried quietly and did not hide it. After the show, she found him outside near the side entrance, away from the crowd. Snow had started again. Soft, almost gentle. "You were good up there," she said. He turned. "You came. You left a ticket. I didn't know if you'd use it." "I didn't either." They stood under the theater lights, the city moving around them. Clara wrapped her coat tighter. "I'm paying you back," she said. Adrian gave a small sigh. "Clara, I got a second job at the bookstore. Maeve hired me. That bookstore is barely solvent." "I know. She pays partly in muffins." Despite himself, Adrian smiled. Clara looked down at her hands. "I need to pay it back. Not because you asked. Because I need to know I can love you without owing you." The word love fell between them. Neither of them moved. Adrian's smile faded, but not into anger, into something careful. "I don't know what we are," he said. "I don't either. I don't know how to trust this." "I know." He looked at her. "Do you have any idea how much I wanted you to be innocent?" Clara's eyes filled. "Yes." "No," he said softly. "I don't think you do." She accepted that, because some pain belonged to him, and loving him meant not trying to explain it away. "I'm sorry," she said. "Not for the first time. Not for the last." Adrian looked at the falling snow. "My mother used to say forgiveness isn't a door, it's a road." Clara gave a fragile smile. "She sounds smarter than both of us." She was. "Then maybe we walk." He turned back to her. Slowly as you need." Adrian studied her face for a long moment. Then he offered his hand. Not a kiss, not a promise. A beginning. Clara looked at his hand. Then she took it. His fingers closed around hers carefully, like trust was something injured they were carrying between them. They walked down the sidewalk beneath the theater marquee, past the glowing windows, past the people laughing in the snow, past a life that had almost been stolen from both of them. Clara had been paid to break his heart, and she had. That truth would never disappear. But love, real love, was not the absence of damage. It was the choice to stop running from the repair. Months later, when spring returned to Boston, Clara and Adrian sat in the back row of the theater during a children's rehearsal. The kids were terrible, completely terrible. One boy dressed as a pirate forgot his line and yelled, "Boats," so loudly that Clara startled. Adrian laughed harder than she had ever heard him laugh. Clara looked at him, and the sound filled some quiet room inside her that had been empty for a long time. He caught her watching. "What? Nothing. That's never true with you." She smiled. "One true thing." His expression softened. "Always." Clara reached for his hand. "I'm glad you didn't sign." Adrian looked down at their fingers. "So am I. And I'm glad you came into the diner that night." "So am I. And I'm still sorry." His thumb moved gently over her knuckles. "I know." On stage, the children shouted over one another. Someone knocked over a cardboard tree. A teacher clapped her hands and begged for order. Adrian leaned closer to Clara. "One true thing from me." She looked at him. "I'm still scared." Her heart squeezed. "Me too. But I'm here." Clara rested her head against his shoulder. "I'm here too." And this time, there was no contract, no lie waiting in the dark, no many changing hands, just a people sitting in the back of an old theater, learning that the heart could break, and still, slowly, painfully, beautifully, learn how to stay open.